Hey y'all, it's me, Possum Breath, but you can call me PB for short. If you're new, welcome, and if you aren't, welcome back. This is the latest video in a series, so if you find yourself getting a little confused, I'd recommend going back and starting from the beginning. If you're just here to watch someone draw cats though, buckle in. I can't believe we're on the final clan. A little under a year ago, I posted my first Clan Generator Challenge video, and since then, I've both gotten much better at drawing cats and at recording audio. I hope. For those of you who've been here from the beginning, thank you so much for sticking with me. It genuinely floors me that I've managed to break 10,000 subscribers. For those of you just joining, I hope I can keep making videos that y'all enjoy watching. This is the last of the 4 clans I'll be designing, but it definitely isn't the end of the series about them. I have camps to design, lore to flesh out, and cats outside the clans who you haven't met yet. So trust me, there's plenty more in the works. But for now, it's time to introduce you to Mist Clan. Mist Clan has perhaps the most interesting territory of the 4 clans. They live at the lowest point of the valley, in a meadow that is home to several large vernal pools, that is, bodies of water that are seasonal rather than permanent. The pools fill up with water in the wet fall and winter months. Then over the course of the spring and summer they dry up, leaving rings of wildflowers behind. In real life, vernal pools are considered a unique and important ecological phenomena and are often protected. In fact, Mist Clan's vernal pools are inspired by the vernal pools on a nature preserve near where I grew up in Southern California. Mist Clan's camp itself is above the waterline, but when the pools are at their most full it becomes an isolated island that must be reached by a few specific paths or by swimming across the water. This is a perfect metaphor for Mist Clan. Unusual, reserved, but also reliable and clear as water. The description the generator gave me was unfriendly and earnest, which I thought was a very interesting combination. I took it to mean that while Mist Clan keeps to itself and primarily looks after its own, it isn't out of some feeling of entitlement or arrogance. They just like to be left alone, and that's all there is to it. It is, like the vernal pools, not that deep. A Mist Clan cat will never be passive-aggressive or manipulative. If they have a problem with you, you'll know, because they'll approach you directly. They don't play the political game that is common in other clans, and they don't care for performative diplomacy. They would rather another clan leave them alone than pretend to be their ally, and because they deeply value honesty, they would see that sort of deception as worse than a straightforward attack. They prefer that if something is said about them, good or bad, it is said directly to their face. Because of this dedication to honesty, Mist Clan cats are not afraid to voice their disagreement if something seems wrong to them. They abhor unfairness and pettiness. To a Mist Clan cat, the best answer is the one that feels the most fair and pragmatic, the one that does the most good for the most cats, and not just the one that benefits your own clan the most. Mist Clan has mastered the art of agreeing to disagree. They see the other clans not as wrong or backwards or lesser, but simply different from themselves in a fundamental way. If every cat thought the same way and wanted to live the same kind of life, there would only be one clan in the valley. In fact, not long ago, Mist Clan and Bay Clan used to be a single clan called Reed Clan. They made the journey from the old territories as one clan, but a divide began to grow as they settled into their new lives. The cats who would go on to form Bay Clan wanted to thank Star Clan for giving them a new life by living that life to the fullest, taking risks and celebrating all that the world had to offer. The cats who would form Mist Clan strongly disagreed, thinking this was a foolish and disrespectful course of action. The cats split down the middle, and now looking at them, you would never know they used to be one clan. Sage Clan might think that it's the clan that is closest to Star Clan, but Mist Clan is the clan that is closest to Star Clan. They are deeply devout, and their top priority is showing Star Clan that they're grateful for every day they continue to have good health, prey, and water. Water is especially important. All of the clans in these territories associate water with Star Clan to some degree. Water comes from the sky where their ancestors hunt, and without water there is no life. Mist Clan takes it a step further, and has shaped their faith more or less around water. They see the yearly return of the vernal pools and the explosion of life that follows to be a sign of Star Clan's continued love and guidance. In years when the rains are late or few and far between, they see it as a sign of displeasure. They believe that misty mornings are the times Star Clan is closest to them, and that the fog is the morning dew clinging to the silvery coats of their ancestors. They also practice something akin to baptism. When an apprentice is made into a warrior, or a deputy becomes a leader, anytime a cat has a great change in their identity, It isn't considered real or binding until they submerge themselves in water to wash off their old name in preparation for the new one. For this reason, almost all apprentice and warrior naming ceremonies take place from late winter to midsummer at the latest, dictated not just by a cat's age, but by whether the vernal pools have water in them. While most leaders share tongues with StarClan at the Moonspring by touching their noses to the water when they go to receive their 9 lives, Mistclan leaders are expected to swim to the bottom. If they don't resurface, well, clearly StarClan didn't want them to be the leader. This has only happened once, a long time ago, and Mistclan does not talk about it. I strayed further from the generator than ever before with Mistclan, mainly because it was the last clan, and so almost all the names had been taken by cats I'd already designed. This generator is a great starting point, but it has a few words it really likes using over and over again, and that drives me wild. I don't like names doubling up unless there's a very good plot-related reason for it, so I had to change them. You can see all the names I changed marked in red, where everything that is as it was when the clan was generated is in black. I also waffled a little on the color scheme for Mistclan. I didn't want to double up colors with the other clans for obvious reasons, and with several more common color combinations taken, there wasn't a lot left over. I decided eventually to make one of Mistclan's colors white, both to give them a more muted feel and because white is often a color associated with faith. Turquoise, one of the colors I hadn't yet used, felt like it would both go well with the white and also call back to their particular cultural focus on water. With Mistclan, my goal was to create a clan that was both very socially reserved but also not inherently cruel or uncaring. Each of the other 3 clans have a different take on Bush Clan's situation. To Bay Clan, it's not a problem to begin with. To Sage Clan, it's something to take advantage of. And to Mist Clan, it's simply not their business. True, Mist Clan could have helped Bush Clan during their struggles, but Bush Clan never asked, and Mist Clan would never presume to know what another clan needed better than the cats in that clan. Bush Clan won't admit they need help, likely out of the fear of seeming more weak and vulnerable than they already are, and Mist Clan won't give help unless it's explicitly asked for. Instead, Mist Clan has expanded their own borders further up the ridge into territory that used to belong to Bush Clan. They asked for that land given that they have kittens in the nursery with more on the way, while Bush Clan has fewer mouths to feed than it used to. They had no intent to hurt or humiliate Bush Clan. To them, it just seemed logical. Pebblestar agreed because a smaller territory actually would be easier for her small clan to effectively patrol, although she'd never admit out loud to that being the reason. Murkstar is the current leader, and has been in charge of Mist Clan for many seasons now. She is the second oldest leader, after Rookstar of course, and is old enough to remember when both Pebblestar and Chanterelle were apprentices. She has lost a few lives and is currently sitting at 4 left. Unsurprisingly, given Mist Clan's values, she has a reputation for being straightforward, dependable, and also very set in her ways. At gatherings, she is usually the quietest of the leaders, saying only as much as she feels needs to be said. She doesn't offer a lot of information about Mist Clan, and she doesn't tend to comment on the goings-on of other clans. That's their business, not hers. If something comes up that she truly disagrees with and that impacts her clan, though, it can turn the entire gathering into an hours-long debate. She lost her tail in the same battle against the cougar I've referenced in the other clan videos. A bad bite became infected and the whole thing had to be removed. She feels incredibly blessed that all she lost was her tail, and not a leg like Pepperstep or a life like Rookstar and Tansystar. That is probably Murkstar's best quality. While she can come across as gruff and reserved, she is genuinely appreciative of everything good in her life. She won't gush or fawn, but if she likes you, you'll know. She just tends to state her compliments in the same way other cats would state facts. It takes a little getting used to, but the other Mist Clan cats can all understand her just fine, and they're really the only cats whose opinions matter to her. For Murkstar's design, I knew that I wanted her to be large and imposing, and mostly square-shaped to allude to her straightforward and steady personality. It made sense to make her a Persian, which worked out great because there are no other long-haired cats similar in the other clans, and so she has a unique and striking appearance. Plus, given that Mist Clan leaders have to swim to the bottom of the Moonspring, the image of a bedraggled wet Persian being hailed as the new clan leader was really funny. You can see I tried out a lot of different ways of drawing the face and mustache before I settled. This was my first time drawing this kind of cat, so you're watching me figure it out in the speed paint. Lavender Heart is a great counterpoint to Murkstar. They are a kind and gentle cat, but not a naive one. They just believe it's correct to treat everyone else the way you would want to be treated. They handle a lot of the interaction with the other clans and have a reputation for being well-spoken and good at de-escalating any potential conflicts. It's easy for other clans to come down on MistClan for seeming withdrawn or arrogant, but Lavender Heart likes to patiently point out that their entire philosophy is keeping to themselves and not causing trouble. Any attack on them would be one without just cause, because they've never done anything to warrant retaliation. This doesn't mean that no clan ever attacks MistClan, but it does mean that the narrative afterward usually is in MistClan's favor. None of the cats in MistClan want to lose Murkstar, but they can all agree that Lavender Heart will be a great and thoughtful leader when their time comes. For their tail and cheek tufts, I wanted to invoke the shape of fish fins, to visually tie in MistClan's link to water. Their whole body is lithe and slinky. All cats are liquid, but this one is more liquid than usual. They are one of the clan's best swimmers, and sometimes it seems like they feel more at home in the water than out of it. You may also have noticed I've been using neutral pronouns for them. The other thing that is liquid about Lavender Heart is their gender. They prefer they-them pronouns the most, but will respond to any. They don't really care how you gender them, as long as you treat them with basic decency and respect. Lamprey Snap is, well, let's just say naming him after a creature as weird as a lamprey was the right call. I say this with a lot of love in my heart for lampreys. In middle school, I did a marine biology project on them while most of my classmates chose things like dolphins and clownfish. I'd recommend not googling them if you're squeamish, because lamprey mouths are a nightmarish circular vortex of teeth, and it's very hard to avoid pictures of what it looks like when they use those teeth on other fish. Lamprey Snap isn't exactly fun to be around. He's terse, and as a doctor, has no bedside manner whatsoever. His baseline tone ranges from dry to completely unemotional, and he tends on the whole to not show much emotion, positive or negative. That isn't to say he doesn't enjoy his work. He prides himself on the fact that he has never lost a cat under his care to something preventable. When it comes to medicine, he tends to be of the opinion that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. He sees his job not just as healing his clanmates when they're sick, but also impressing upon them good habits to keep themselves healthy. He regularly makes sure the clan can recognize dangerous plants and animals, conducts a regular clan-wide flea and tick check, and takes no chances when it comes to contagious sickness. He has an entire second healing den set up a ways outside of camp specifically to be used as a quarantine, and this is why the sickness that decimated Bush Clan wasn't able to take a foothold in Mist Clan. At the first sign of symptoms, even mild ones, Lamprey Snap will move that cat out of camp. That way, he can determine if what they have is serious long before it has a chance to infect anyone else. And if it's not serious, better to be cautious than dead. This hypervigilance is how Lamprey Snap shows his love for his clan. He's not great at expressing himself emotionally, but he cares about every cat who relies on him and takes his work so seriously because he'd be devastated to lose any of them. Like most Mist Clan cats, he sees life as a gift from Star Clan that should be treasured. And the only time he'll really get annoyed with a clanmate is if he thinks they're taking unnecessary risks and not taking their health seriously. For his design, I took a lot of inspiration from his name. Lampreys have distinctive gill spots down their sides, and I tried to mirror those in his coat pattern without just outright drawing several circles on him. I wanted him to look angular and unwelcoming, and put him in a hunched-over pose to make him seem closed off. He looks mean and antisocial, and only his clanmates who know him well understand that being friendly just isn't how he shows affection. That's not him being mean, that's just normal, neutral Lamprey Snap. He isn't angry, his face just looks like that. Creekbone should not be this early in the lineup, if I'm honest. I had originally rolled up an entirely new cat to add to MistClan to be their guide. I even completed his design, though something about it felt lacking to me and I had him earmarked to potentially revisit later. But when I got to the Elders and started designing Creekbone, something about him instantly was overflowing with personality in a way the original guide wasn't. His character took shape quickly as I drew him, and by the time I was done, I knew he was meant for more than just being old. So I abandoned the guide I had originally designed and gave Creekbone his job. If you want to see that abandoned design, I posted it in my community tab a while back. In MistClan, the guide not only provides personal guidance to their clanmates, they also are taught to be deeply in tune with the nature around them. When the first rain of the season happens, how much rain there is, the patterns of the clouds, the color of sunsets, all of them have meaning to be interpreted. MistClan guides do not just receive the occasional big sign from StarClan, they believe they are receiving little signs all the time. Creekbone is no exception. He spends most of his time quietly observing the world around him. The kind of interpretation MistClan does is not an exact science. A lot of it is based as much on the cat doing the interpreting as it is the signs they see. This is something Creekbone always makes clear to his clanmates, and something he's working hard to impress upon his apprentice Frogpaw. One can never know anything for certain. There is no objective right answer, there is only the answer you think is right, and sometimes the two are the same. Sometimes they aren't. It's important both to believe in the decisions you make and be open to the possibility that they're wrong. That's being honest with yourself, and being honest with yourself is something Creekbone stresses to every cat under his care. Personally, he's the first to admit when he's made a mistake, and he sees that as something normal rather than something shameful. It doesn't mean he's a failure, it just means he was wrong. Better to make a decision with your whole heart, even if it turns out to be wrong, than do nothing at all. Lizardstripe is Creekbone's brother and one of the most senior warriors. His design is based very strongly around his name. I thought it would be funny for a cat named after a lizard to have lost part of his tail in the same way that some lizards drop their tail, and the stripes on his pelt are based vaguely on that of a 5-line skink. You can see me draw and redraw them a ton of times once I get to coloring. For some reason I really struggled with them, but I'm pleased with how they ended up, even if I don't think they're technically realistically possible. Lizardstripe takes his job as a warrior very seriously, and is always the first into a fight and the last to retreat. Like most MistClan cats, he believes life is precious, and so despite the battles he's seen, he has never actually taken the life of another cat. He has a reputation outside of MistClan as a terrifying oncoming force of nature, something like a storm or a fire. He will simply keep going until he drops, he never shows fear, and he doesn't need to kill another cat to effectively take them out of a fight. Part of the reason the other clans don't often attack MistClan is because they know Lizardstripe is there, and nobody wants to go up against him in battle if they don't have to. He was also involved in the fight against the cougar, and while some of the stories of that battle are definitely exaggerated, everyone can agree that he fought like 10 cats instead of 1. You would think, given all this, that Lizardstripe is your standard gruff, emotionless type, but this couldn't be further from the truth. When he's not in battle, he is soft-spoken and thoughtful, and spends almost all of his time with his mate Flaxfoot in the nursery. This is her 3rd time in there, and Lizardstripe expects a single kitten, just like the 2 times before. According to Lamprey Snap, she's perfectly healthy. She just isn't ever going to produce a big litter, and Lizardstripe and Flaxfoot have made peace with that. Every new life is a blessing. Lizardstripe is just glad that his family is growing, even if it's growing more slowly than he'd like. Hawkblaze is one of 3 siblings. Originally born as one of a litter of 3 Toms, it didn't take her long to realize gender was one of the few things she didn't share with her brothers. It was no trouble to simply explain that she was a girl and wanted to be treated like one going forward. One of the strengths of MistClan's dedication to being honest, straightforward, and minding their own business is that it applies to cats in their own clan as well. Pulling back the curtain a little bit, the name the generator originally gave me was Lionblaze. Obviously, I had to change that. There's already a canon Lionblaze, and he plays a pretty major role in the books, so his name carries a lot of associations with it that I didn't want to accidentally invoke here. I decided to work that into Hawkblaze's backstory, and make her being renamed part of the canon plot. Which is both how I got the idea to make her trans and how I originally conceptualized the MistClan practice of washing away old names. In Hawkblaze's case, she was originally born as Lionkit, but realized halfway through her time as an apprentice that she wasn't a Tom. She was granted a second apprentice naming ceremony, changing her name from Lionpaw to Hawkpaw as a way to formally acknowledge her social transition and the new phase of her life going forward. Not all cats in MistClan who are trans change their names, but not all cats in MistClan who change their names are trans. No matter who you are, the option is always left open to those who would benefit from it. Everything in Mistclan is about being your most true and honest self after all, and having the right name can go a long way toward that. Hawkblaze herself is a great example of a name fitting the cat it's attached to. She earned her suffix Blaze for her fiery and passionate personality. She is always full of opinions, and like most Mistclan cats, when she disagrees with something, she'll make it very clear. She's the kind of cat who isn't happy unless she has a hill to die on. She will sometimes start disagreements over little things just because she enjoys debate, or take up the less popular side in a fight she isn't even part of just to see if she can come up with a convincing argument. None of it's personal, this is just legitimately how she has fun. She'd make a great lawyer if cats had lawyers. Mothdust is the second sibling from Hawkblaze's litter. Just like his sister, he has a big personality. He is sometimes too honest and doesn't always think before he speaks. If a thought occurs to him, 2 seconds later it will come out of his mouth, whether it's a smart thing to say or not. His strength is in his ability to bounce back and smooth over these situations as easily as he creates them. He is a master at apologizing thanks to a lot of practice, and he is genuine when he does it. He doesn't mean to offend, he just doesn't realize what he says might be rude until it's already upset someone. He has a reputation for being genuinely well-meaning, if not very smart. He is Lavenderheart's mate and is fiercely proud of them for being appointed deputy. Anytime cats from another clan insinuate that they think Lavenderheart is too nice, too soft, too weak, Mothdust is there to tell them how wrong they are. Being kind isn't a weakness. According to Mothdust, given the way the other clans act sometimes, it must take incredible strength for Lavenderheart to be as nice as they are. Lavenderheart also helps to balance him, and is often able to help him navigate social situations with more grace than he would on his own. He is learning from Lavenderheart how to be more thoughtful in what he says. It's been a slow process, but he is earnestly trying. He doesn't want to make any trouble for his mate or his clan, after all. Except the fun kind of trouble, of course. Mothdust is a little bit of a jokester. He is the kind of guy who will make jokes whether or not anyone else thinks they're funny. If he sees a setup, he is almost physically incapable of not responding with a punchline. If he and Lavenderheart ever have kits, he is going to be excellent at dad jokes from day one. Almost every Mistclan cat has heard "Hi hungry, I'm Mothdust" at least once. Applethroat is the feline embodiment of the phrase "How do you like them apples?" He always has to be right about everything, always has to get the last word in, and in general is kind of obnoxious. He can turn almost anything into a competition, especially if it's a competition he thinks he can win. His suffix throat is a pointed reference to his tendency toward being loud and braggadocious. The unfortunate thing is that Applethroat can usually back up his claims. He's an incredibly smart, athletic, skilled cat, and he never claims to be able to do anything he doesn't wholly think he can accomplish. If he says he's going to do something, he'll do it or die trying. Luckily, so far, he has not died trying. His obnoxious nature is a little more bearable because it's supported by him actually being a valuable and active member of the clan, so most of the cats around him shrug it off. Applethroat, of course, sees it as just being honest. He is the best warrior in Mistclan, and there's no reason to pretend otherwise. It's not about putting other cats down, it's about stating facts. He's the last sibling in the triplet litter, along with Hawkblaze and Mothdust, and it wouldn't be incorrect to say that out of the 3 of them, he is the ringleader. He naturally tends to take a leadership role, and not so privately has his eyes set on eventually being deputy. Not that he wants to lose Merkstar, of course, he respects her a great deal. But, like most Mistclan cats, he understands that time is always moving forward and the world is always changing. If the deputy position happens to open up, he'll be the first to try and get a paw in the door. He's very open about this. There's nothing in him that is scheming or power-hungry. He's just being honest. Oleanderfoot is another all-white cat that, like Campionpaw, I had to characterize entirely through silhouette. I decided to base him on an Oriental Shorthair, a breed of cat with a very recognizable look, and his personality formed easily around that. I had already conceptualized him as somewhat aloof and reserved, and as I drew him, that only became more central to his character. Oleanderfoot is always on the edge of meetings, always sitting apart from other cats, always a few lengths behind other cats on patrol. He takes Mistclan's tendency toward wanting to be left alone and turns it up to 11. He's plenty dependable and will do anything asked of him without complaint, but he won't be social while he does it. He just seems to completely lack the drive for interaction that other cats have, and would probably be perfectly content as a loner. But he believes that he was born into MistClan for a reason, that this is where StarClan wants him to be, and who would he be to argue? Much like Lamprey Snap, his clanmates have accepted that this is just how he is. They generally leave him well enough alone, and with their smaller clan size, it's often useful to have a clanmate who is comfortable going out hunting or on patrols alone. In fact, that's what Oleanderfoot prefers, and so far it's never led him into trouble. This does mean he's not likely to ever get an apprentice, but he doesn't seem too broken up about that. He's happy right where he is, and wouldn't want anything about his situation to change. He isn't particularly close to any cat in his clan, but they all see him as a steady and reliable fixture in camp. It just wouldn't feel the same without him there. Ravenface is the oldest of Lizardstripe and Flaxfoot's kittens, and has been a warrior for almost a year and a half now. She and Hawkblaze were apprentices together, and I do mean together because they were inseparable. It didn't surprise anyone when the two of them announced they were mates not long after becoming warriors. If there was a cat version of high school sweethearts, these two would be it. Ravenface is quiet and low energy, a great balance to Hawkblaze's seemingly endless well of get up and go. Much like her father Lizardstripe, when she gets a task to focus on, she becomes almost a force of nature. If she has something to get done, it will get done, and that is a threat. She isn't all business, though. She's named after a corvid, and like many corvids, she has a mischievous streak. She and Hawkblaze get along because they share a similar sense of humor. Ravenface is just quieter about it. She's the kind of cat who'll spend an entire clan meeting occasionally sticking leaves into another cat's tail, and seeing how long it takes them to notice. Dry jokes and little asides are her bread and butter, and usually she only says them loud enough for Hawkblaze to hear. She is also particularly close to her mother Flaxfoot and spends a lot of time with her in the nursery, especially now that Flaxfoot is expecting again. She would love kittens of her own one day and has already talked with Hawkblaze about the possibility, but the two of them are in no rush to start a family. It will happen when it's meant to happen. Privately, she worries that, like her mother, she'll only ever produce single kitten litters, but that's something she'll deal with when she gets there. Frogpaw is probably my favorite cat out of this bunch. They are Ravenface's younger sibling, and are one of the only cats in MistClan that bothers with plant decorations. As the Apprentice guide, they've learned a lot about the special flora and fauna that inhabit the vernal pools, and they consider wearing those plants another way to become more in tune with the world around them. They are fairly close with Shellpaw from SageClan, and have picked up at least a little of SageClan's love of decoration from him during the times he's come by to collect herbs. MistClan's unique territory means that there are some plants and other supplies that only they have access to, and then often only for a short window of time every year. A different clan might use this as a bargaining chip, but MistClan doesn't do that kind of thing. They share willingly, as long as the other clans are respectful and honest about what they take. It would be wrong to purposefully deny other cats help for self-serving reasons. After all, StarClan watches over every clan, which means that in some way MistClan has a duty to the other clans too. Frogpaw feels very passionately about StarClan and has perhaps the strongest connection to them out of any cat in the valley. They often dream of the Starry Meadow, and they have been lucky enough to be able to ask the advice of their ancestors directly on multiple occasions. They want to do right by MistClan as their eventual guide, but ultimately they see their loyalty as being to StarClan itself above all else. So far this has worked out for them. StarClan wants their clan to thrive, and so they work hard to ensure that their clan thrives, and their loyalties line up just fine. However, it will eventually pull them in two different directions. They will be MistClan's protagonist, and one of the cats that rallies behind Smokeheart and Cindertail when there starts to be talk of changing the code. If StarClan sent the BushClan cats a vision, then StarClan must approve of what they did. It means that the clans have been wrong for a long time, but that's just an opportunity to change and be better. Of course, not every cat in StarClan will agree, and I could spend a whole other video going over the complex politics going on there. Frogpaw is going to have to come to terms with the idea that StarClan is, in some ways, fallible and unfair, and that StarClan is not a monolith, but rather many cats with their own opinions and biases, some of which Frogpaw is going to disagree with. Their journey, like Cindertail's, is going to focus a lot on their faith and their relationship to it, and in that way they and Cindertail will also find common ground. Flaxfoot is Lizardstripe's mate, and the other senior warrior alongside him. Currently, she's expecting her third litter with him, though like Lizardstripe, she is already at peace with the idea that litter here just means one kitten. They became mates later in life, and if she had to guess, she'd say that's why she's never had big litters. She waited a little too long to have a family, and now her body is past its prime. In her younger years, Flaxfoot was wholly dedicated to her duties as a warrior. She even had ambitions to take the position of deputy, and yet always found herself passed over for a different cat. For a long time, this frustrated her. She thought she was doing an outstanding job. She mentored Oleanderfoot and Applethroat, both skilled warriors. She always volunteered for extra patrols. She was wholly focused on improving as a warrior, and this left her a tired cat with few friends because she never had time for friendships. She and Lizardstripe had been in the same batch of apprentices, and she knew he had an interest in her, but she considered herself far too busy to admit that she returned those feelings. The fight with the cougar changed everything. During that battle, she was injured, and most of the injuries were internal, much harder to heal. She came as close to death as any cat can without going to hunt in StarClan permanently, and during her entire long recovery, Lizardstripe was there to encourage her and remind her of her strength and determination. She realized that she didn't want to eventually go to StarClan only to find no one there waiting for her. Success didn't matter if there was no one to be proud of you for succeeding, so she abandoned her lonesome lifestyle and began a family with Lizardstripe. She is still more or less the most skilled warrior next to her mate, and she can't wait to get out of the nursery and back to patrols and training, but she feels much happier patrolling and training now that she's doing it with friends. Daisy Nose is Applethroat's mate and currently looking after their two kits, Turtle Kit and Fog Kit, in the nursery. This is her first litter, and she is absolutely smitten with them. If you were to ask Daisy Nose, she'd say both her kittens are perfect just like their dad. She's a cat who is capable of finding something nice to say about all of her clanmates, even reserved Oleanderfoot or bristly Lampreysnap. Everybody has something good about them if you bother to look for it. Because of this, she's the cat least bothered by Applethroat's personality. She doesn't find him braggy or competitive, she finds him confident and charming. She's also one of the few cats able to rein him in when he starts getting caught up in his own competitive nature. He doesn't feel the need to prove anything to her, and so around her he tends to be a little more relaxed. To tie in with her name, I gave her a little sort of flowery starburst of white right on her nose, which I think is a really cute design element. I'm glad it worked out how I hoped it would. While Mistclan cats don't often wear decorations, Daisy Nose is still most happy during the spring and summer months when the vernal pools begin to come alive with wildflowers. She thinks they're most beautiful when they're growing in nature and would rather smell them than pick them, though she's happy to help Lampreysnap gather supplies for the healing den and has a rudimentary knowledge of medicinal plants and herbs because of how often she tags along with him. She also pioneered the idea of plucking flower petals and rolling in them to mask the warrior's scent, making hunts and patrols that much safer in the warm months. Nettlebrook is the father of Hawkblaze, Mothdust, and Applethroat. He is also Lampreysnap's brother, and most cats agree that he got the extra sense of humor his brother is lacking. While Lampreysnap is hypervigilant, Nettlebrook is almost aggressively relaxed. He's a retired elder, and as far as he's concerned, that means he doesn't have to care about anything unless he feels like it. He spends the vast majority of his time sleeping, and does absolutely nothing to rein in his 3 rambunctious kits. They're grown now, they're not his problem. Not that he isn't fond of them, of course. He's just far more likely to encourage them than he is to try and parent them. If he's not sleeping in camp, then he's off causing trouble somewhere. He often goes missing for long stretches of time, though he always brings back prey when he returns. He's one of those elders that can't be told what to do even by their leader, and Merkstar has never really tried to boss him around. He doesn't cause her any trouble, he's just doing his own thing, so she figures it's not worth the headache. He may or may not be secretly meeting up with a certain elder she-cat from a neighboring clan who also tends to go missing for long periods of time. And if he is, it's none of your business. And there it is, the last of the 4 clans. I cannot believe that just a little more than a year ago I was starting this series. I had no idea how much attention it would get, or how many people would enjoy it. I hope as I keep making videos about these cats, you all keep having fun watching them. You might want to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already so you can get notified when the next part comes out. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.